Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Glennis. Welcome back to the United States.
Thank you.
What are your New Year's resolutions?
I have none. Should I? I don't really believe in them. What are yours?
I'm trying to do no screen after 10 p.m.
Okay, maybe I'll steal yours.
So far, 0 days.
Yeah, are you reading in bed? Are you scrolling?
Oh, I'm trying to read. Well, I do read, but I'm trying to read in bed.
Are you reading anything good at the moment?
Currently reading East of Eden.
Okay.
John Steinbeck. It's actually really good.
Okay.
I mean, I guess that shouldn't be a surprise.
Right.
It's a classic.
It's literally John Steinbeck. That's great. I'm reading something also.
What are you reading?
I'm reading The Witches, which is a historical book about the Salem witch trial.
Not to be confused with the movie.
It's actually very, very fascinating. And as per most history, the patterns repeat itself.
Yeah. Well, speaking of patterns repeating themselves, I think we have a lot to get into this week.
So much.
Let's dive in.
First and foremost, when we recorded last week, this horrific murder by MAGA had not happened yet. The horrific killing of Renee Good in Minneapolis by an ICE officer. Truly shocking.
Has shocked the conscience of the nation in many ways and broken through when nothing else really has. Because we've been seeing ICE violence across the country all year long. And I think this really outrageous act of violence has captured people's imagination in a way that actually puts them in that driver's seat.
Right.
In a real way.
Yeah, I was going to ask, why do you think that is?
I think part of the reason it went so viral so quickly is that both sides tried to seize on it to prove their own point. And so everyone was sharing it, right? Usually I think in these situations, there's a bias in who's sharing it and uplifting it, which outlets are running it, that kind of thing. But in this instance, it was everyone because MAGA was like, look, see, these are domestic terrorists trying to run over police officers or cops or ICE agents, whatever, absurd. And then the left is like, look, they're murdering us. The options are now comply with them or be killed. Right.
It's very scary. Everyone saw the footage immediately, being that people are told, if you're a bystander, record the ICE officers, record what's happening. And I think, the next day, MAGA decided to release the ICE officers' POV. And what's troubling to me about that video is that that's not a body cam.
I know.
He had his cell phone out. He knew exactly what he was doing.
I have yet to hear some sort of justification for why he would be recording on his cell phone.
Well, I think we know why. Is that he was thrilled at what he was doing and by what he was doing and wanted to record.
It's insane.
It's insane. It's so criminal. And let's talk about that because there's a lot that's happened in the last week about the repeated messaging by Stephen Miller and others that ICE officers have complete immunity. We're also seeing a shakeup in Minnesota of the prosecutors who are resigning. There's 6 prosecutors who have now resigned from office because they were being told to, rather than investigate the ICE officer, who the federal DOJ said you can't do.
Just the incident, just to investigate that incident,
the murder.
What happened there.
It's a crime scene.
Right.
It is a crime scene what happened. The fact that there was a physician on site who we have a recording of saying, I am a doctor. Please let me go check if she has a pulse.
Right.
And they're like, no. We have an ambulance coming. What is the harm in a doctor going to see someone who was just shot? That's super troubling. And not only has the DOJ said, no, you cannot investigate the murder or the ICE officer, they're saying, actually, but what you should be investigating is Renee Good and her wife Becca's ties to insert resistance organization here. Right.
Yeah. Wanting to investigate the widow is truly cruelty at a level that is hard to comprehend. There's no there, obviously. Right. I don't think we need to break down the video itself because there have been so many different ways and times that people did that. But I think it's clear from anyone who's paid any amount of attention to it, this was not some plot. There was not some sort of organized attack on ICE, and to use all of the lies from the administration as a pretext to further traumatize someone who has lost the love of their life, kids who have lost their parent, it's just diabolical.
It's diabolical. And I think also, to my question to you about why is this resonating so profoundly across all demographics of Americans, is that this was a mother dropping her child off from school, driving back or to wherever she needed to go next, and it was ICE who blocked the road. So regardless of if she was going to get out of her car and protest or not, they made it difficult for her to even drive through, gave her conflicting information about getting out of her car or driving forward. And that could happen to anyone. And it is so abundantly clear that by the DOJ, even claiming that they're going to prosecute her widow and ties to resistance organizations, that they're trying to intimidate every other American who is trying to resist by saying that if you are aligned with Indivisible, if you are aligned with We Are the 3.5%, if you are aligned with the Sunrise Movement, that you are a domestic terrorist. It's bullshit.
Yeah. Let's talk about what's happened since the shooting, right? So the war over who should be investigated, how the federal authorities are blocking Minnesota investigators from participating, has created mass dissent within the DOJ, is disrupting sort of their standard operations. And the administration's response has been to pour more gasoline on the fire. Any other president, really probably in the history of our country, would be seeking to calm the situation, to reduce violence that's happening in the streets, which is being escalated by ICE, and trying to work with local officials and authorities to do that, right? President Trump has zero interest in peace, zero interest in calm or any sort of harmony within the United States or outside of it. And his solution is to send thousands more agents into the streets and further embolden them with incorrect claims of some sort of superseding federal immunity that they can do anything they want without any sort of penalty. And the fact that they're all masked is what's actually making that stick, right? Because otherwise we would, I think, all be really confident that these people are going to go to jail when an adult is in charge. Yeah. And that's my big fear right now is that. Of course.
And it's very valid. And it's also, they are repeatedly messaging that if you, a citizen, even touch an ICE officer, it's a felony. I think also something to be clear, if a cop, right, an NYPD cop, I could go up to an NYPD cop, I could record him legally and say, what's your name and what's your badge number? And they have to tell you. Which is an important distinction, because they have to identify themselves. And you really are so correct that the fact that they are masked and we have no idea who these super villains are is extremely scary. And to your point, if we can't somehow, because I think we're aligned on this, whatever Democratic adult is in power next, we want trials, baby. We're not going to be able to identify who is murdering people on the streets of America.
To get into the base principles a little bit, without going too abstract, essentially the definition of the state, of the government, is the entity to which society gives a monopoly on violence. The idea is that we as a body politic, we as normal people authorize
citizens,
the government to use force in order to enact a common set of rules and order. That's basically the exchange that happens and
domestically
in return,
and abroad.
Right. Yeah. And so we, in exchange for allowing the state to have authority to use violence against us, in return, we get accountability. We get to set the rules for how and when that violence is used. And it only works when they're governing and doing that, using violence with the consent of the governed. That is how our system works. And when that accountability breaks down, zero accountability, because we don't know who the people inflicting this violence against us even are, the violence itself is no longer legitimate, is no longer authorized by the consent of the people being governed. And so what they've done isn't just like overstepping boundaries. It's actually fundamentally breaking the system that we have had in place for hundreds of years, which allows us to maintain a society of order.
Yeah, that social contract is gone.
The thing that's maybe giving me a little hope that we will see justice is the leak that happened. I don't know if you've seen this, but 4,500 ICE officers' names were leaked by a whistleblower.
Ooh.
At DHS.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Where's the list?
Very recently. Yeah, it's online now. And so there's all these people, content creators, investigative journalists who are out there doing research and finding out who these people are, where they're at, what they're doing. So there might be more potential to match the abuses and the violence that's happening to perpetrators in the future if we continue to see like what a hero move, you know?
Yeah, like citizen journalists, citizen heroes that are leaking this information. Yeah, it is. I will say this podcast is called Vibes Only, right? And this specifically, my vibe is not high. I'm still obviously very, very motivated to resist, and especially in the midterms to have true electoral gains with Democrats, and then obviously building towards 28. But it is only year one, a little over a year. And I'm just like bracing myself.
Yeah, I've actually been really proud and inspired by how people do not currently seem to be demoralized by what we're seeing. They seem to be angered and emboldened from what I'm seeing, which is different than the the reaction to the first ICE actions and general administration like attacks in the first half of 2025, when it felt so heavy that people just felt paralyzed. Yeah. I feel like people are in the streets, fired up, ready to absolutely hold the line against what is so clearly the erosion of our democracy. And it's breaking through to people that are not partisans, people that are not in our world of activists and advocates and those kinds of things. It's supported by the data, not to go into polling, but like the approval for abolishing ICE has skyrocketed. The approval for Trump immigration policy as a whole, which has always been his number one issue, plummeted, is now underwater. Like people broadly are so upset by what's happening and what they're watching unfold on their screens that is giving me hope that there is a way back.
Totally.
Because it's not having the reaction that MAGA wants us to believe that it's having.
Yeah, people are leaving MAGA because of it.
Yeah.
Okay, you say hold the line. I want to talk about someone else who is holding the line right now. His name is Jerome Powell.
Jay Powell, play the clip. play the song. So what people need to know about what's happening with the Fed is that the Fed setting interest rates directly impacts the economy, and Trump wants to control it. But that's not how our government works. The Fed operates independent of the administration, so that as policy is implemented, there's a outside data-driven strategy to prevent runaway inflation in the country.
The Fed is supposed to serve the American people. It is not a political entity.
Exactly. And so Trump had appointed Powell in his first term. Biden reappointed him.
Powell worked for George H.W. Bush. Like, Powell has been around forever.
Right.
He is, I think he's a registered Republican, but as it goes for bureaucrats, he is as nonpartisan as it gets.
Powell has done his job, which is to react to economic indicators. And Trump hates that because Trump wants everyone to do exactly what he says when he says it. And then even still, it's not enough. And so Trump has initiated a criminal investigation into Powell.
Important note, Trump said that he had nothing to do with the investigation into Powell, was unaware.
When 2 weeks prior, he said there will be an investigation into Powell.
He's lying. He just lies all day, every day.
Right. And so this is really unprecedented. Powell took a pretty unprecedented step in directly responding to it, saying direct to camera. He learned from some creators.
Was like, get in front of that camera.
Absolutely. And he knew that markets would be
impacted.
Spooked. Right.
Yes.
What I think people need to understand is this is part of a broader pattern, as we've talked about before on the pod, of Trump going after his political enemies with criminal investigations in a way that we've never seen a president do before. Reuters has a really good breakdown of 470 people, groups, institutions that Trump has sought personal retribution over other unrelated issues.
So whether that be like suing CBS or
Tish James,
right,
James Comey,
mortgage
those kinds
fraud,
of people, right. And when you start with the person and work backwards to find a crime, justice cannot be done in that situation.
And hire like fake prosecutors to do it. I guess we just have to wait and see what happens with Powell. Okay, we have to talk about something that the internet imploded on last week.
Ooh, did they?
Simply because it touches both of our professional careers, which is digital media, the midterms, and money. So last week on Las Culturistas, there was some discourse around the two candidates in Texas, where your money should be spent, who is a better candidate, etc. This then led to the internet imploding about people having an opinion on a very, very in the zeitgeist Senate campaign. You are very vocal about how your money should be spent and where your money should be spent as it relates to national politics, state politics, where you have the largest impact. Thoughts?
Yes, I will first qualify my own expertise and say there are many people who are better forecasters, pollsters, data experts, who know Texas better, of course, lots of other things that I do not claim to be a foremost expert on. How dollars turn into political wins and losses, I absolutely claim authority on. There are very, very few institutions or entities in the ecosystem that put more money into answering that question than Oath. We have an entire team of people who spend more than full time working on that. And so I feel extremely well positioned to talk about what your dollars can and cannot do. I came out very early in this internet meltdown to say the real answer is that if you are upset about what's happening with ICE, with the economy, with reproductive rights, with any number of issues that Trump is working to undermine, the answer is you should not give to either of them.
Right.
That your dollars are actually not going to decide the outcome of that race.
Yeah.
And I talked about the reasons why on Instagram. They're actually both pretty well funded. The race is less than 2 months away. The amount of earned media that they're earning and the size of both of their current donor bases tells us that they'll not be hurting for cash at all. It's not going to come down to a battle of money.
Yeah.
And so your dollars actually should just not go into those races, even if you are very interested in the outcome of who wins that primary.
Right.
Separate question is who should win the primary to give Democrats the best chance of winning the general. And that there's, I think, room for a lot more opinion about, because it fundamentally is it's a question that has no definitive answer.
We don't know yet. We don't know yet. We don't know what turnout is going to look like. We don't know how campaigns can change. We don't know what Oppo looks like. There's so many things that we don't yet know.
And the nature of politics is that we never will. Right. One of the sides is going to lose the primary. And then when most likely either of them loses the general, the other side will say, see, you were wrong. I was right. But we'll never know what the other situation would have been had we elected the other or nominated the other person. What I can say from the data is that Jasmine Crockett is a known figure in Texas. People know who that is when you ask them, and they have opinions about her. She's extremely popular with Democrats. Her approvals across all polls are underwater with independents and underwater with Republicans. That can change, right? But that's just universally true when you look at all independent polls. James Talarico is a virtual unknown. Half of Texas voters do not know who that is. Yeah. And so when you look at his favorability ratings, they're based on a smaller number of people. Right. Because half cannot answer whether they like him or not. What the people who do know who that is, he is less popular among Democrats overall and more popular or slightly above water with independents and still underwater with Republicans.
Here's my take. I encourage productive internet discourse, keyword being productive, and I am not yet convinced both sides of the Democratic primary will advocate and support whoever wins the primary. I want to see that. Like, there is so much infighting between the supporters of each candidate to the point of it not being productive, and it's taking up space, it's taking up airtime, it's taking up organizing time. And I just want to make sure that anyone who supports Jasmine Crockett will support James Tallarico if he wins the primary, and vice versa.
I agree. In my opinion, the only way Texas is even the Senate race, particular, the only way that the Senate race in Texas is really worth talking about after the primary is if Ken Paxton is the Republican nominee. The Republicans currently have a 3-way primary going on, tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars being spent there to try and get the incumbent through. Ken Paxton would be the most damaged goods we've seen Republicans nominate since Mastriano in Pennsylvania, who got walloped in 2022.
Yeah.
And that makes it interesting. But in that situation, it really will matter how the Democrat is running their campaign. I think that either of them can put themselves potentially in a position to do that. What I will say is Jasmine Crockett has made statements in the past that she does not need to win Trump voters, or that she's not interested in winning Trump voters. And in Texas specifically, you have to.
Yeah.
Like, when you just look at the sheer number of people who vote in Texas, there aren't enough Democrats to turn out. You have to win independents largely, and some Republicans. And so that's where I'm not saying it's impossible for Crockett to do it, but I think that showing an openness to trying to do that is important. And that is why I think some people in Camp Tallarico are saying it will be easier to do if fewer people have a strong opinion right now of the candidate, that the candidate will be able to define themselves, ideally, in a frame that would appeal to those two audiences that you have to win some of.
Yeah.
Currently, 1 in 5 Republicans has a positive view of Tallarico,
which is extremely
really high for like a Democrat running for Senate.
Yeah, if you are an independent or a Republican voter in Texas, you don't want to, and you're unhappy with the MAGA movement and with Donald Trump and Texas politics, you don't want to hear from a potential Democratic candidate that candidate is not concerned with your vote.
I will say, I know that a lot of people might disagree with that take. I do not vote in Texas, and I want people to focus on other things. Even if your goal is to shift the Democratic Party in a more populist direction or a more progressive direction, there are other races going on right now where your time and money will actually do that more effectively than in the Texas race, which is so deeply in the spotlight already that it's much harder to have marginal impact there. And so, to recap, spend your money somewhere else. Go focus on other primaries if you want to focus on primaries at all. If you insist on having hot takes about this, just root it in the data. Like, for me, I think that it's important for people to be operating within the bounds of reality and being straight with what the Democratic Party needs to do in order to come back from the most horrific administration that we've ever seen in our country's history.
Yeah. And to add to that, the data and the coalition building.
Absolutely.
We are a team.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we all want the same thing.
Okay, clickbait, double click. This is our segment where we talk about some news from the week, and we talk about, should we go deeper into it, or is it clickbait? I only have one for you this week.
I have like 20.
Okay, let me do mine to you first.
Okay.
Dan Bongino, no longer at the FBI, will return to podcasting.
Clickbait. Don't really care who that is.
Yeah.
I think that he'll probably end up in jail once we get the full sort of scoop on what's been going on in the administration. But that doesn't mean that I need to know anything about him.
Hasta la vista.
Have a great life in prison, probably. Okay. Trump says he will veto extension of healthcare subsidies if they pass the Senate.
Double click. Affordability is your issue, my bro. That is one of the most tangible ways that you could put money back in Americans' bank accounts. Yes, this is only for people on ACA healthcare, but as we've talked about ad nauseum on this podcast, it has real implications for people's everyday lives.
Senator Martin Heinrich from New Mexico is pushing a repeal of the legislation that gave Lindsey Graham and other Republican senators $1 million or more each.
So he wants to say you can't have that money.
Correct.
I didn't realize Lindsey Graham was one of those people. Hate Lindsey Graham.
He's up this cycle.
That man truly needs to get a grip. I don't know if you've been following all this like daddy he's been doing with Donald Trump and like panting, looking up at him and being like a warmonger. Have you seen all these clips?
Yes.
Double click because we have to do that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not legislatively possible. However, all of these like micro resistance movements happening with elected officials, I think we have to uplift and talk about.
Yesterday, the Supreme Court heard a case about whether trans girls and women can play sports that could have wider implications for how the country defines sex.
Double click. I mean, I think that's kind of obvious.
Yeah. Grocery prices rose at the highest rate last month since 2022. Double-digit increases in price for household staples like coffee, beef, and candy.
Double click. It's insane. We have to be talking about this all the time.
Republicans pass a measure that changes regulations for water flow in shower heads.
So dumb. I know it's definitely clickbait, but why? Why is this even happening?
Because Trump made it a pet issue. And so whenever Trump like mentions something offhand or repeatedly, whatever, House Republicans in particular crawl over themselves in order to try to introduce the bill that gets chosen as the one that he will endorse and support so that they can suck up to him more. Graham Plattner puts his campaign on hiatus to pursue pregnancy with his wife in Norway.
Yeah, so the root of this is that IVF in this country is extremely expensive. I think it's a double click, and I'm going to tell you why. Republicans are the pro-life party. They are anti-abortion. We know all of this, and yet they do nothing to make having a child more affordable, whether it be IVF care, which is something Donald Trump ran on, by the way, saying that he would make IVF affordable, actually providing like basic human rights to women. The list goes on and on.
He cut $10 billion in childcare funding.
Right.
They're gutting all the childcare programs across the country in the most populous states.
Right. That's right. Especially Dem states.
Right.
Yeah. So while it does feel that he's taking this moment and making it kind of a political stunt, I think it's important. IVF in America costs anywhere from, $15,000 to $50,000. And in Norway, him and his wife can go through an IVF round for less than $5,000.
A couple things from abroad. The Trump organization announced it would be partnering with Saudi Arabia, essentially, to build a $7 billion hotel and golf course.
Yeah, double click. This is your Kerry Homeland Wall thing, which is very real. Trump diplomacy is directly tied to Trump business deals.
Yep.
Period.
And in Iran, we're seeing the largest uprising in decades against their oppressive government.
Double click. This is a massive deal. It's truly horrific what is happening to the citizens of Iran. We are seeing one of the largest civil uprisings in Iran ever. Their administration, which is clerics and this militia group, there are reports, because there's been an internet blackout, which is very important to note. There have been reports of anywhere from 200 to 12,000 civilians have been killed. And they're saying now more likely the 12,000 to 13,000 civilians protesting. And that I was listening to NPR this morning, and someone said that you can't go out on the street right now and not see someone be shot. Everything is so intense right now. That's why the vibes are so intense.
Absolutely.
It is so much. I think we also have to mention Greenland. There's a meeting happening this morning where diplomats from Greenland will be meeting with the biggest loser that we have, J.D. Vance. And Trump's whole argument there is that if we don't take it, China or Russia will. It's too much. It's really, really the peacetime president, ladies and gentlemen.
And for that reason, let's go ahead and send them off with a good vibe.
Okay, Brian, Mayor Mamdani, he's gotten right to work. One, did you see the Zoe ramp?
No,
okay,
what's a Zoe
so this
ramp?
was a political stunt. I kind of like one of my friends texted me and was like, this just feels like political theater, parentheses, and it's working. Right when you come off the Williamsburg Bridge and like Delancey Street meets Clinton Street, and it's this like if you're a pedestrian you have to walk, and these bikers are like the Wicked Witch of the West just like shooting down, and there was this ramp and people would get air. Like it was fully dangerous, and it was like a pet thing.
Yeah.
And last week he threw some new gravel on there, and there's a new ramp, and everyone's calling it the Zoe ramp. So that's like the pet thing that Zohran Mamdani has. He's been doing a lot of that.
All I care about are the bathrooms.
The bathrooms?
All I care about are the bathrooms. Mamdani announced thousands of new public bathrooms around the city of New York, which is so necessary. It's absurd that there's nowhere to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And people end up going to the bathroom in the street.
Oh,
like that's what I care about, right?
You mean
is
the human fecal matter on the street?
But it's psychotic.
No, it's disgusting.
And so that like enough is enough. I will pay more. Like I will devote all of my taxes to public bathrooms if it means that problem goes away.
Yeah. And perhaps the most important thing is that Kathy Hochul, side by side with Mayor Mamdani, announced the plans for universal like 2K. So the city of New York, and I think the state of New York, by like 2030 will have universal childcare for 2-year-olds.
Fuck them kids.
You're like, I don't care.
Give me the bathrooms.
Yeah, you're like, leave your kid in the bathroom. No, this is a huge win for working families, for basic childcare needs in the city of New York. The costs of childcare in the city of New York and across the state of New York is just massive. So this, I think, is really, really encouraging to see that this happened so quickly. We're not even 15 days into the administration, and this was already announced and is being built. So that's my good vibe. All of those are
absolutely.
It's
a great vibe. I will see you guys at a soon-to-be public
You're
restroom
be at
in the city of New York.
Grand opening. You're going to be cutting the tape on the toilet.
I'm going to start drinking my water right now.
That's disgusting. Okay, great. Well, we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Vibes Only is a production of Vibes Only the Podcast, LLC, produced by us, Glennis Meagher and
Brian Derrick,
with audio producer Baze Hohen and digital producer Maddie Hart. We want to hear from you. Send us voice notes, drop a comment, and if you're vibing with the pod, share it with your friends. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. We'll see you next week.
See ya.